Let's move on to the NECC, and I really like, let's start with the big schools division because I really like what Angola has. What they've got coming back, Chance Roddy at quarterback, he threw for 1,400 yards last year, 17 touchdowns, 1 interception, Peter Morrison-esque.
Yes, definitely.
If you will. I just think that they're the team to beat because they return all these guys. Plus, you're talking about, I think they quietly won 7 games last year.
Yeah, went 7-3, I think Angola did a year ago under Andy Thomas, and you look at that team, and is Angola ready? Because we've talked so much about Garrett and Eastside in that conference, Cherubusco too. So is Angola, they kind of cracked that ceiling a little bit last year. Now can they stay there? You know, can they sustain it? I think with so many guys coming back, that's definitely a possibility.
And kind of like Jay County, you're talking about a much larger school.
Yeah.
Even in the big division, they are
definitely
the biggest school. Garrett, obviously, you don't want to overlook them because they're a team that, you know, 1 win away from a state championship game last year. But graduation hit them really hard. But one guy you like to have coming back is a 2,000-yard rusher in Cam Smith.
We kind of overlook him around in the metro area because he's up there at Garrett, and anytime you run for 2,000 yards, I don't care what the competition is, very impressive. So while we don't see him too often in terms of playing in city teams, phenomenal player. Now, can they complement around him and maybe add a little bit of a passing game, add a little change of pace kind of guy on the outside to really complement him? But you look at Garrett, you look at an Eastside team that maybe takes a little step back because Connor Dove graduated after 9 years in high school.
17-year starting quarterback.
So you kind of look at that and say, also where Cherubusco is in that small school division.
Yeah, that's what I want to get to. Is the small school division is really interesting to me because, you know, Busco returns Richards at quarterback. Garrett Horn had a fantastic season. I don't think he got enough credit last year. Busco returns a lot of guys, but Eastside also has players like Aaron Dean out there on the outside who, speed-wise, is difficult to match up with in the NECC. And also, I think Central Noble is going to take a step forward. As Coach Mo said, they've got all 22 starters back, so, I mean, you figure you got to be better at that point, right? Am I wrong?
Like you mentioned,
I think
no team in the state has more starters back than Central Noble.
This is mathematically
dynamite
true.
Insight over here from Glenn Marini. But yeah, you know, Central Noble, you look at a team that took some steps forward last year and brings so many guys back. Can they contend? You still, I think you put Cherubusco up there just because they return a lot of guys, and it's you know, Coach Paul Sadie has done a great job in making that team kind of flow after really taking over the last couple years. So Cherubusco's still the favorite, but you know, maybe Central Noble up there. You don't know how much Eastside falls.
Yeah.
If they do it all, I mean, that's a question too. You lose Mike Eschbach a little bit, so how do you replace the coaching staff there? So that's a question too for Eastside.
That was one of the things I think goes overlooked when you looked at Mike Eschbach's numbers, is just how far the program has come the last 4 or 5 years. It took a while to built it, and now he's over at Wawasee, but Todd Mason takes over the program. He's familiar with it. How does he put his stamp on the program and keep the ball rolling?
Yeah, and that's the big question, and it's not Todd Mason, it's more of a coach thing, is when anybody comes in and takes a team that traditionally has not had success and turns them around, can the next guy continue it, or does the program go back to, you know, what it usually was? So that's the big question with Todd Mason. That's a question with so many different coaches that take over teams that are perennially not competitive, is can the next guy keep them up at that level and maybe take them to the next level? I think that's a question for Eastside and Coach Todd Mason.
And I'm really looking forward to games out of this conference in week 1. Eastside Woodland, that's always been a good one the past few seasons. And then not only West Noble versus Central Noble, because there's obviously rivalry there, but DeKalb versus Angola. As you mentioned earlier, DeKalb's got some pieces there. They got some nice personnel. I want to see how Angola responds.
And it's been one of the better games of week 1 the last couple of years. And I think, you know, last year, as Angola won by 10, I think the year before they won by 1. So it's one of those games that kind of gets lost in the shuffle of week 1 schedule, but it definitely has been a competitive game in the last couple of years.
All right. Anything else you were looking forward to here about week 1?
I want to see these teams play in anger. I think we've heard so much in the offseason about how good Snyder is, and we're as guilty as anybody saying how good they're going to be. So many people talking up Wayne as well. They have a big challenge on Friday. Let's finally get to see these teams perform on the field and really see what they're about, because we can continue to analyze these teams. Finally, next week we'll actually be able to look at some hard numbers and scores and all that stuff and tell you what we think, because we're obviously right now.
Obviously,
you know,
100% correct.
So what happens Friday will just back up what we just said for the last 20 minutes.
Exactly. Proof positive. Manifest destiny here on Inside the Zone. So again, We're glad to have you every Monday right here on Wayne.com with Justin from the News Sentinel. I'm Glenn, and we'll see you next week.